it was really hard. Had to do hours and hours worth of questionnaires, CVs being sent in. It was a real Dragon's Den style kind of scrutiny of who we were and whether we were capable of achieving this. We wanted 5 mil PI.
Welcome to the Ground Investigation Podcast, a show featuring interviews and insights from leaders in the geotechnical and geo-environmental business world. Join host Michael Taylor as he discusses the ups and downs of running a business in the GI industry, getting geological experts to share their learnings and lessons, as well as their plans for the future, highlighting what they think will improve the ground investigation industry moving forward. Now, here is your host, Michael Taylor.
Welcome back to the Ground Investigation Podcast. Today I'm joined by a man who's gone from digging deep into the ground to digging deep into business, Michael Austin, founder of Karn Geo. Michael's here to tell us all about the trials, triumphs, and hopefully not too many tribulations of starting a business in the geotechnical and geoenvironmental world. So whether you're into boreholes or business plans, buckle up for some rock-solid advice. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. What an intro. Amazing.
Excellent. So I was wondering if you could give yourself a little bit more of an introduction and tell us a little bit about starting Karn Geo.
Yeah, sure. I'm Mike Austin. I'm one of the directors behind Karn Geo, based down in Cornwall. I am a graduate of Camborne School of Mines. I think it was 98. I graduated, and then got my first break after being interviewed by Julian Lovell and John Granger for soil mechanics in Bristol.
Okay.
And I went and worked at soil mechanics for 5 years till the start of 2004, I think. And then we took a year off. My now wife and I went traveling for the year, came back. I did some agency work for Vinci's in London, quite a bit of work in Ireland. And then I got offered, probably my best position was sort of regional manager for E25 Associates down in Cornwall. And that's pretty much where we've gone to. I was there for, 2006 to, 2020 pretty much. And then after that onto Soils Limited, and then we set up Karn. It's been quite a journey, and sort of still think I'm quite young. And then you see graduates coming through and realise, I've got a couple of decades experience now.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
You spend the time with older people, don't you? So you still keep young, relatively at least.
It's all a fallacy. It doesn't work.
No, it doesn't, does it? So what inspired you to start your own ground investigation company? Because, most people prefer employment, for the stability. So it's going to the different side. It's a bit of a riskier affair, but it's also, more fruit at the end, I suppose. So what give you the idea?
It's born a little bit out of exasperation, frustration. The team that we have, the other directors, I should mention, of course, in no particular order, please, guys, don't get offended. Lucy Quick, who I've known the longest, she was with me at E25 Associates. Oliver Scott and Carl Cadwell. I don't know why I had to think about them. Sorry, Carl. And Carl Cadwell as well. This was the team. This is the team that we set up through E25 Associates and then on to Soils Limited. And we were all a little bit frustrated in our roles at the time. We weren't really seeing the careers develop the way we wanted to develop, and we just decided to take things in a different direction. Fundamentally, it was as simple as that. It was there was a tipping point, and we reached that tipping point. There are a number of things that we had to do along the way to secure Karn Geo services. Our biggest stumbling block was insurance, but we can come on to that in just a second.
So how many kind of directors, partners, people who are in the main business are there?
So there's 5 directors involved. So it's myself, Lucy, Ollie, Carl, and we've got a 5th silent partner who was our funder that helped set us up.
Okay, and that was kind of the idea to start, was it? So if you were going to start a business, you would want that many people involved as opposed to being just yourself and then employing the skills required over time?
The team are amazing. They're just fantastic. They're great people, really hard-working team. They're exactly the sort of people that I need to be surrounded with, that give me the confidence to do the job that I've got to do anyway. So I think we all bring something to the table. We've all got very different skill sets, but they all complement each other really well. And I don't think I'd want to do this without them.
No, it is very lonely by itself. Is if you take on staff, it's they can leave, but if they're in it properly, of course, then you're in it together. You can share the good times and the bad times, I suppose.
Sometimes there are jobs I just don't want to do, and so I can just say, look, guys, can someone do this for me? I can't face this one. I really don't want to do this one. Whether it's menial admin work or whatever, it doesn't matter. Yeah. It's really nice just to be able to spread that around a little bit.
Admin is the bane of all of our lives if you're trying to run a business. So what were the early days like? I know it is still early days, isn't it? 'Cause you're 2.5 years in.
Somewhere in between 2.5 years we are now, and it's hard work and frenetic. I mean, we hit the ground running. We hit the ground really hard. First things first was trying to get our insurance. There was no point in setting up this business if we couldn't get the level of cover that our clients would expect. And the PI market at the minute is a hard market. There are not many brokers around that know about the work that we do, let alone companies that are prepared to insure us. So it is very, very limited. It means we've got to be very precise with our predicted turnover. It means we've got to be very precise with the amount of work that we're doing, which is interpretive, where the main majority of the risk is, and then trying to feather the sort of the contracting work, the stuff which is just the day-to-day stuff, and making sure we're not paying PI rates on that sort of margin. It was really hard. Had to do hours and hours worth of questionnaires, CVs being sent in. It was a real Dragon's Den style kind of scrutiny of who we were and whether we were capable of achieving this. We wanted 5 mil PI. So yeah, it was hard work. Had some great advice from some competitors as well. Big shout out to Simon Ruddleston. He offered a lot of really friendly advice as to how we should approach this and how we should get it done. He was really, really good for information.
It's strange. When I started a kind of geotechnical and geoenvironmental recruitment agency, the first thing I did was contact people via LinkedIn who were actually already in that game. And they did jump on the phone and had a conversation with me and kind of helped me out and pointed me in the right direction, even though you're in direct competition. But there's enough work. There's enough kind of work to win.
Maybe 15 years ago, I was more aggressive in our business approach with competitors. And then you realize we're all just trying to get by. It's all just the same sort of thing. There's no point in being mean-spirited or horrible about it. And a lot of our competitors are lovely. And I was going to say, it was Mr. Ruddleston, Simon Ruddleston, Geotechnical. He gave us a lot of good advice at the early stage with regards to PI. We had a lot of friendly engineers who were quite excited by the prospect of us setting up and sort of got that keenness to help as well. So they were offering advice on our PI and the level of cover that we should try to achieve. So it was good. I mean, trying to get 2 mil PI, fairly straightforward, fairly easy. It's trying to get that 5 mil PI, which most of the big boys seem to want. That was considerably harder, but achievable, it turns out.
Achievable, well done. So that's very different, is it, from the PI from a consultancy to a contracting company, is it?
With our consultancy aspect of it, so our work is sort of split. I don't know the ratios. So of course we offer the consultancy services, and that's where the majority of the PI is leveraged. That's where the risk is in our advice. So that's the bit that we have to sort of drill down into, excuse the pun, when we're doing our PI renewals, to let people know how much of this is leveraged against real consultancy interpretive work and how much of it is leveraged against just a bit of contracting work instead. But honestly, I don't know whether it makes much of a difference to the insurers.
So I worked for a consultancy previously, and they were talking about the PI insurance, but they've been going for years. So apparently it kind of, what they were telling me, it kind of accumulates because they've insured this and then have carried on working. Yeah. So it generally just gets higher and higher and higher with all the kind of legacy. And the numbers they were talking about, I couldn't believe. It was a huge amount of money.
It's not funny. It's a very serious amount of money. And it does only go in one direction. So you do build up this residual risk for, I think most contracts are about 12 years, which you have to carry your PI insurance for. So it's a big commitment. It is a big commitment. We need to make sure that our insurers, we get good relationships with them, and our brokers as well, so that they all understand that the business needs to be sustainable. We can't suddenly next year have PI insurance that are into the hundreds of thousands of pounds. It's, every business would fold on that. So it would only leave us with the big boys, or we reduce our PI level, which clients won't want.
Yeah, I suppose it is quite tricky to find someone who will, one, insure it, and two, understand it, because I had to obtain insurance, and as soon as you mentioned below ground, that was it. It was, we would prefer you to not do anything like that, which is a problem because that's what it is.
It took a lot of explaining. We were lucky. We dealt with a broker who had dealt with other ground investigation companies. So he kind of had a really good gist as to what was going on and what we were achieving. It's just about making sure that we explain ourselves properly and don't tick any boxes that we don't need to tick unnecessarily, like airport working, like nuclear power station working, anything along those lines. And all of a sudden, your doors will just be slamming. Because we're simply not established enough to ever be able to undertake work like that. So insurers won't want to know.
Sure. So you say someone who's kind of got some experience specifically within ground investigations. Are you happy to mention them?
What, the brokers that we're using at the minute?
Well, I'd imagine if someone's thinking of starting a company, they'll probably go through 10 sort of phone conversations, eventually get to someone who actually knows something about it.
Yeah, no, our brokerage is CRK. They've been good as gold with us. Really helpful, really useful on the end of the phone when we needed advice, and really responsive when we were asking for renewals. So they've been good as gold.
There you go then. So CRK. So someone's thinking about it. I say you're going to
try them.
Yeah, that's it. Definitely.
Try them. Yeah, definitely.
In terms of clientele, then how did you secure your first client? And what advice would you have to others looking to break into the field?
Do you know what? I can't remember who our first project was for. That's really interesting. I'd have to look that up and have a look-see. We are an established team down in the Southwest. We've been an established team for a long, long time. And I think a lot of the people that I was talking to for advice about setting up the business, they transitioned straight across to us, really. We were really lucky, a wonderful client base of just lovely people, really helpful, lovely people that wanted us to succeed and wanted us to sort of do well and be a great little business. And they've been really helpful. We've got a lot of wonderful relationships down here with local engineers, architects, developers, and it's served us really well. So yeah, fortunate, really. That's all. Just fortunate.
So in terms of I suppose the clientele which you would, try and obtain, is there anything in particular to have a particular plan? Is it only kind of small to medium companies, large companies? I would imagine it's a larger company for yourselves.
For us, crikey, no, absolutely anything. Our jobs can be advice on an extension for Mr. and Mrs. Joe Bloggs. You can take that to the extreme. We deal with people who are very high net worth individuals who are buying premium properties down in the Southwest to look to knock them down to rebuild them. We've done a few recently in very prominent locations, cliff tops, beautiful rural settings, stunning places, absolutely fantastic. So we deal with all ends of that spectrum. We deal with developers, anything, any sort of unit size, and we deal with the big boy developers as well. So it's all the usual names. It's all the regular names. We do a little bit of work for the regulators, Environment Agency as well. So yeah, everything and anything really. In terms of bread and butter scale works, I don't think we've got a particular band of work. It can be absolutely anything. But yeah, it's always exciting. It's always different.
Yeah, I suppose some of the larger companies will can provide and sustain you as a business almost if you if you have a good relationship with them. But I would say that maybe there's a chance that he was, for that they would just expect a slightly leaner invoice value, I suppose.
I think it's always important to tender competitively, but you have to make sure that we can deliver on those promises. for that tender. So it's no good cutting your own throat only just to annoy them at a later date when you don't deliver what they need. That's completely pointless. But I tend not to prefer to put all of our eggs into one basket with a particular client. Midas, ISG. In the news recently, I mean, there's nothing stopping people exclusively working for those companies. And yet, you could be leveraged into many thousands of pounds and now they've gone. So you do need a diverse client base.
Yeah, you do. You need to spread the risk as if something goes wrong. It's
very much so.
Isn't it? It's all gone, sort of thing. What opportunities did you see in the industry that motivated you to start the business?
That's a difficult one to answer. I think probably we were exasperated. And this was the main driver for us sort of just going, we got to stop this. We got to do something different. And that's where we were at. And then it started the insurance hunt. That was one thing. I mean, I think you could probably tolerate and stay employed and tolerate and stay employed and tolerate. But as soon as we figured out, actually, we can get insurance to do what we want to do. Okay. All right. Let's see what happens. Let's try it. So it was that and the funding that were the big ticket items to get organised, and that was it, really. Simple as that.
Sure. So if there's kind of a group, so there's 4, and then there's someone who's kind of more an investor, I suppose, and you're all kind of dissatisfied with the trajectory of your careers, essentially, with the companies, whoever it was at the time. I mean, what do you think that says about the ground investigation industry?
I think it says that every company is very, very different. Every company has good times. Every company has bad times. And I think the stresses can flow downhill a little bit onto staff. So I don't think it's a reflection on any particular company. I think it's more a reflection of a period of time. Okay. Whether it be COVID, whether it be a recession, it's the stresses that are born from the environment, not really within company culture. I think I'm confident in saying that most places, they haven't had toxic culture. I've really enjoyed my time at the companies that I've worked for. Great fun, great drinking pals. It's been amazing.
Yeah.
But it just came a point when we just figured out, hang on a minute, it could be more fun.
Mm-hmm.
It could be more fun. And let's try it. And it is more fun. It is more fun.
Sure.
Finding the right staff is hard, really hard. At GI Rec Limited, we understand the ground investigation market inside out and can make all the difference to your recruitment woes. You need to concentrate on running the business, which is very difficult to do without the correct number of qualified staff. We can help you get your time back and lower your stress levels. We only work with talented, referenced, and often entirely exclusive candidates across the ground engineering sector. Wouldn't that be nice? It's not a dream, it's a reality for many of our happy customers. Get in touch with the team now to book a call. Just email info@girec.co.uk to book a call, or click the link in the show notes now.
So you mentioned you kind of all bring in a different kind of skill sets and experience level to the overall team. What's yours? What are you best at? What's your greatest value to the company?
God, you're asking me to justify myself. I'm not sure I can. I normally just hide behind the others. I use their skill set, and then if there's a technical question, I bat it off to one of the others. If something needs doing on site, I'll get Carl to sort it out. No, I don't think I can justify what I do. Lucy will tell you that I can waffle.
Okay.
I can do a lot of technical waffle.
Business development? Do you tackle that side?
Yeah, I do. I talk to the clients most of the time. I organise a lot of the projects, make sure that a lot of the sort of pre-commencement hiccups are ironed out, or at least try to as best as I can. And then assist everyone else where I can as well. My role is a little bit diverse. I will be just as happy being on site helping out for a few days as I will be in front of my computer. Probably a little bit happier sometimes.
Yeah, as long as it's not raining. But yeah, no, I agree. And it's probably good for your staff to see you on site and giving them a hand, because obviously you're going to need to
I think
direct.
it's more than that. I think sometimes it's important as well just to maintain the skill sets and remember it's not as easy as I remember it to be. My mind's got a really good way of just making out everything to be easy, and it's easy. Just get on with it. It's easy. And when you turn up on site, you actually realize, oh, hang on a minute, there are limitations to how quickly we can go. There's only a certain amount of productivity that we can do. So I think it's important to keep that grounding.
Yeah.
Just so we can just strike that balance between what's expected from the office and what we can deliver as a team on site.
Sure. So when people are considering starting a business, some people write a business plan, some people don't. Some people might have the back of a postcard, which would definitely be the way I would do it. How did you tackle that?
Ollie wrote our business plan.
Okay.
And it was essential. We're not getting insurance without business plan.
Mm-hmm.
It is as flat and as simple as that. They want to know everything about how you're going to run the business, who's going to be doing certain tasks. They're essentially looking at all aspects of liability, because it's not just the PI, it's contractors insurance, it's the public liability insurance, it's all aspects of it. So they want to see that you are capable in terms of managing your health and safety systems, managing your cash flow to ensure that we are sustainable for the next 10, 12, 15 years to keep the PI indemnity levels that are required for clients. Business plan was absolutely essential. I don't know how many iterations Ollie got to in the end, maybe a dozen, before we actually issued it across with projections and forecasts. It's a lot of work.
It's a higher barrier to entry, isn't it? I think, because if you absolutely have to write the business plan to get the insurance, go on. I can see you've got something to say.
It sort of depends. So I'm going to sound like we're a big business. We're not. We're still a small, maybe even micro business. It's proportionate to our turnover. I think if you're a one-man band and you're looking to set up, then you know, maybe the clients you're looking for don't need 5 mil PI. Maybe they need a mil PI. Maybe 500,000 PI for certain projects. So your barriers to entry are lower depending on what sort of market you're aiming at. We were looking at aiming for our established market, our established clients. So it was very important to us to understand what their requirements were, which is why we sort of garnered quite a lot of interest and commentary from them on what they absolutely would look for, not just today, but maybe for the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years going forward. So that was where we were coming from. PI isn't necessarily a barrier to entry. I think it just needs to be proportional to the scale of the work that you're doing and the risk that your clients are going to accept.
Sure, because you get lots of, perhaps independent consultants, one person companies essentially. So I'd imagine for that one, then it's not as high. But if you actually want to be serious about it, to get the business plan to project that far ahead, that's some serious thinking going into that. And you need to know what you're talking about in order to convince someone else, which is a very different level.
Like I say, maybe a dozen iterations of our business plan before we've got it ironed out to what our sensible projections were going to be. And I mean, it's all crystal balling. We don't know. It's all crystal balling. The news changes all the time. The economy changes all the time, as we can see. No one could have predicted the COVID. I just think that on an even keel, our business plan works.
Yeah.
External factors, who knows? And the thing is, though, everybody will be in the same boat. That won't just isolate one company. Everyone will be in the same boat. But in terms of what our projections should be, we were really happy with that, and our insurers were as well. So, it seems to work.
Sure. So in terms of financial challenges, have you had any so far? Did you have one to start? Is it cash flow? Because obviously cash flow is very important. Sometimes you give clients terms, then sometimes they're not particularly great terms. I know we've worked with a company before who wanted 60 days end of month, which is just ridiculous. But some of the larger companies, they need that, don't they?
Yeah, and some of the large companies, if you want their work, you have to swallow that.
Yeah.
It is as simple as that. Now, leveraging your position for Mr. and Mrs. Joe Blogs is a lot easier. You can ask for payment up front. You can ask for payment on issuing the report, or prior to issuing the report once it's written. So there's lots of ways that you can keep the cash flow coming through, but there are still issues with 60, 90-day payment terms. It still happens. It'd be lovely if it was more like Sweden, wouldn't it? 7-day payment terms. Wouldn't that be fantastic? But it's just not going to happen.
It's the 60-day payment terms followed by, they're late. A client pays you late and they've got a 60-day end of month.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a joke. You have to have the facility available to cover that. If that is the client basis that you are looking for, you need to be aware that actually you might not see anything for several months. It is tricky.
Yeah.
If that's your client base, then you need to have that financial fallback in place, or at least have the market available to cover that cash shortfall from other sources. So your single unit builds, your small 1 or 2 units.
We would use kind of an invoice factoring company along those lines. So, for instance, when we provide contractors to companies, we're not going to pay the contractors directly because it's a lot of money very quickly. And if you have 30-day payment terms, you're talking tens of thousands, 100,000, you're talking a lot of money. So what we do is we have a company who deals with that. They do the invoicing, the collecting, then they charge a percentage, which is probably higher than I'd like. But then it's insured and everything. If they go bust, if they just don't pay, then they'll concentrate and do all of that stuff.
I think that's an entry route, definitely. I didn't like it because, again, it's just another layer of complexity to the situation. Mm-hmm. If you have the facility available to cover those debts in the short term, then I would probably do it that way instead. Yeah. The liability does sit with you for payment, and you do have to chase payment all the time, mm-hmm. but it's a slightly better system. This all formed part of our business plan. This all formed part of the structure as to the terms when we were going to get paid. It's not an easy thing to manage. We still see it. We still see 60, 90-day payment terms. And it's incredibly hard to sort of keep track of it. And it can be, as a new business, it can be quite hard to swallow. It can be quite soul destroying. It can be quite sort of, oh God, when's it coming? Are we getting paid? What's happening? But most of the time, at least, it should filter through and come out the other end. So, it's all right. It's all right.
So do you have it insured at all? So if the company did go bust or they just didn't pay, do you have any type of insurance in that?
No, we don't. We just make sure we don't over leverage ourselves with one particular company at a time, or at least don't over leverage ourselves to any more than we deem acceptable between the team. So we will look at the conditions and just kind of go, well, hang on a minute. They haven't paid for so long, and that's a lot of money now. So we can't continue with the next project until we start to see some of this filter through. So we manage it in-house between us.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And that helps people pay when you can't start the next project and they need it. That's
sometimes they just go elsewhere.
Yeah. The person that runs the accounts is not on holiday that week, because sometimes they're on holiday, aren't they?
I just feel that, there's been so many stories of having an amazing singular client, brilliant singular client, until they go bust. And then, it's quite easy to be 10, could easily be 50 grand in the hole. I mean, it's not hard to extend that sort of level of credit when you think the work is there and it's great work and wow, aren't we doing brilliantly? But if you haven't done your homework, and if you haven't done your credit risk ratings on them, then watch out.
It's important to do the credit rating, but not just once. To almost have a continual update for that, because something can happen the next day, and you perhaps wouldn't provide them with any credit facilities essentially.
Again, you reflect that with regards to the level of work, quantity of work, the value of work that they are providing or that they want you to do. And you reflect it against the economy at the same time. So whenever there's a shift in the economy, just go back and double check the credit ratings. Or if they come to you and say, brilliant, we got a 100 grand job, just go back and check the credit ratings. It can be awfully hard otherwise to get excited about it. but you got to get paid.
So how many people working in the company right now have an active, who actively participate, whether they're an engineer on site?
8 of us there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, nice little team, good little team.
Yeah.
So it's a mixture of office and site team. It's yeah, it's great.
And is it a case of you kind of start to run the company and hope to be profitable by this time or that time, or how does that work? Is it profitable now? Is it profitable in the future?
So into every job is tendered competitively, but there are margins that we've got to make. Otherwise, it's pointless. So every job is tendered from the right. We need to make X, Y, Z margin on this. Fantastic. And then a little bit of that goes towards salary, and a little bit of that goes towards the insurance, and a little bit of that goes towards the vehicles and diesel. And then this job's never going to make you rich. It's not. It's not going to make you rich. You can draw a better than average salary, and you can live with some of the benefits of owning your own company, but it's never going to make you rich. So I think, let's knock that misconception on the head straight away that we're going to be rolling around in Porsches and Ferraris, because we ain't. It's as simple as that. So we are lucky though. Our business, we've had a fantastic client base. We are debt free. So everything we've got, we own.
Yeah.
The site vehicles we own, the drilling rig we own, all of the gear that we've got we own, everything that comes with it. It's all now paid for, and we are debt free back from our funder. So our funder is just now a shareholder. He's not just. Sorry if you're watching. Sorry, you're not just. You offer a load of great advice. He himself is a seasoned businessman, and he is very accomplished, and he offers loads of great advice when we need it. Just on stuff that we've never had to deal with before.
Yeah.
Loads of things about, have you considered this? Have you thought about that? For tax implications, buy new instead of that decent second-hand one. Get a new one. Loads of things that we've just never considered that he chimes in and helps with. So yeah, I say just our funder. He's not. He offers a lot of sage advice as well.
Sure. Yeah, with the buying new equipment, I think they write off 25% of the value against profits per year. So after 4 years, which is, I suppose, better, isn't it, in terms of this?
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of false economy there when you think about buying second-hand gear, and you look online and there's quality second-hand gear. It's fantastic. This is brilliant. But actually, in the long run, better to buy new.
And so you need things to work, don't you? Because when things start breaking, you save a little bit of money, but they start breaking down, then you're taking your mind off, focusing on the business and just having to sort these little problems, little niggles out that crop up occasionally.
So things like breakdowns, there's some degree of it is going to be inevitable. Our drilling rig, for example, you're going to get some metal fatigue. Something's going to break sometime. Something's going to happen. And we can carry out site audits on the rig as often as possible. But if there's a hairline fracture in one of the rods and we put it down the hole and it snaps, we could lose DP rods down the hole. There's always going to be that. But buying new gives us that sort of, that short-ish term assurance that it's going to be all right. One of the things that we found when sourcing gear is you want the gear to do its job, but you don't want to spend too much, so you just buy the appropriate gear. But actually, you've got to be very conscious of the secondary costs behind it as well. Servicing costs, transportation costs for gear to send it away. A lot of the stuff we use calibrated every year, and the cheaper suppliers sometimes have dearer calibration and dearer carriage back again. So there can be a lot of false economy there as well. So that's something which is bitten us on the bum, shall we say. It's one of those things I didn't really consider when we were making the initial purchase, was to go, how much does it cost to get this thing serviced? Right, calibrated, right? And how often do we do that? Every year, right? Okay. It's those additional costs that are a little bit sneaky beaky, but they creep into your business model.
Sure. So how do you balance the need for investing in new equipment or technology with managing operation costs, especially when starting out, managing cash flow, etc. as well?
Whenever Carl gets excited about a new piece of equipment, and says he wants something and then justifies it with a reason why we should have it. And we tend to say, yeah, all right. I mean, he's got some pretty big ideas as to what we should be buying, but for the most part, he comes back with, we're going to need this.
Okay.
And then we cost it and we buy it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the money at the minute is rolled back into the business.
Yeah.
We want to be a sustainable business. We want to be here in 10 years' time. We want to be here in 20 years' time. Although I made this joke the other day, I actually want to be retired in 20 years' time. So we want to be, as a business, sustainable and profitable enough that we can guarantee our staff's future, all the while providing the service that we want to provide.
So is the idea to have one office, which is it Truro, the office is situated in? Is that right?
Truro, yeah.
Truro.
Yeah, Truro's home. So Truro is where our main base of operations is. And from there, we project outwards to pretty much anywhere anyone wants to go. It is predominantly southwest, south of England, but South Wales as well. It all depends on the client. We've got a lot of clients who are good friends that will say to us, will you do this in Cheltenham for us? Will you, have you got a day to spare up in Portsmouth? And it's like, yeah, all right, yeah, fine. We'll sort that out. But of course, from a base of operations in Cornwall, our costs are considerable mobilizing to those areas. Yeah, it's proportionate again. But no, at the minute, our next step is to secure our own office and our own yard. That is the next key step in strategy that we've got. Because everyone feels secure when they've got that. I mean, when we're renting, it's fantastic. The place we're at is really purposeful. But there's always that sort of, oh God, what happens in the lease in a couple of years' time? Are we going to have to move? Are we going to have to do this? And it's been important to us to make sure that everybody feels like we have a strong, stable base for the business. And that's going to be our own premises next. We do have something else in the pipeline, but that is the next big, investment for us.
To secure your own office, secure your own yard. And again, I think it goes back to tax efficiency as well, that doesn't it? In order to buy and operate out from, it is one idea.
Yeah, I don't know quite so much about the property aspect of it, how that works. I don't know, thinking into pensions. I haven't got a clue, honestly, I don't. But yeah, it's one of the things that we need to take advice on as and when the time comes. But that doesn't mean we're going to stop down in the southwest. I think probably we're all still young enough to try and replicate the office that we've got elsewhere. So let's wait and see.
That's it. I suppose prove it down there, get the experience, and then maybe a wee satellite office a bit further north. And grow a team. But I mean, like I say, we don't have the crystal ball, and you don't know exactly what's going to happen. So
it's about finding the right staff in the right location, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all about the staff. It doesn't matter what the idea is if you don't have the people to carry out correctly. Yeah. Okay, so can you explain just a little bit about the services of Karn Geo Services in a bit of detail?
Yeah, fine. We're a GI company. We're a GI company based down in the southwest, largely focusing on fulfilling geotechnical and geoenvironmental requirements for clients. You know, it might be structural geology, it might be geotechnical assessments of rock faces, cuttings, all the usual things for foundations, or it might be geoenvironmental assessments. Now, that can be anything from a simple planning condition through to pollution control waters assessment. So it all depends on what our clients need. We try and assess the problem as early as possible and direct them down to the best course of action that's going to give them the result that they want. It's all about assessing problems early.
Sure. And I think we had a conversation a while ago, and I believe you mentioned about a drone that you have there.
Yeah. So that's going to be the next thing on LinkedIn, Mike. So
Okay. So no one knows of this yet.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Ground Investigation Podcast. If you have enjoyed this episode, then please support the show by leaving it a 5-star review wherever you download your podcasts. For more information on what was discussed in this episode, click the link in the show notes now.